House Amendment number 8 by Representative Parkinson is spread on the member's desk in Amendment Pack 2.
Representative Parkinson, you are recognized.
Mr. Speaker, let me move that one space if that's okay.
Without objection, rolled one space. Next amendment, Mr. Clerk.
Amendment number 9 by Representative Parkinson spread on the member's desk in Amendment Pack 2.
Representative Parkinson, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you, members. And let me, before I get started, let me thank Chair Lady Lynn and the governor and the whole team that worked on this budget. I know there was a lot of work put into it, and there was a lot of sacrifice that was made to take things out of it to get us into the posture that we're in, for us to get out of here and get back to our families and everything. This is one of those deals where I'm not going to get super emotional about it, and I am passionate about what I'm about to say, but I want to appeal to our inner hearts on this. Right now, we are in uncharted territory. None of us have been here before. None of us in this generation that I can think of have been in this space before. Those that are poor in our communities, in our districts, you start thinking about districts like Cobb County, Shelby County, Cross County, where there's a large population of people who are struggling or trying to get by. They're going to be disproportionately affected by this pandemic, coronavirus. And in this budget, members, if I can get your attention for just 1 second, in this budget, we are taking close to $1 million to test deer. $1 million to test deer. But a citizen of Tennessee, and I need y'all to hear this because a lot of us didn't know this. I didn't know this till recently. A citizen in Tennessee has to reach a certain threshold to be tested for coronavirus. We got $1 million in here to test deer, an animal. But a citizen in our state has to reach, a citizen can have every symptom of coronavirus: fever, runny nose, sore throat, cough, difficulty breathing. 25 years on the fire department, if you have never experienced or seen somebody that was having a hard time breathing, that's the worst thing that you can possibly see. They can have all of those symptoms, and because they weren't around somebody that was documented with coronavirus, or they're not in their job doesn't put them in a place where there's a lot of people, or they hadn't traveled, they don't meet the threshold to be tested. And we had an incident in Shelby County just yesterday, as a matter of fact. I got a call from one of the federally qualified health centers, or the FQHC, one of them in Shelby County, where an individual came into that clinic or into that facility, and he had every single symptom of coronavirus, but he didn't make the threshold because he hadn't been around somebody that had been documented, or he hadn't been traveling. And they sat him in there. Because we have a threshold or a priority for who is to be tested, he did not get tested. And he was released back into the public where he could be possibly spreading the virus. So I want you to think about this, what I'm asking in this amendment. It's not a big change. Members, this is not a change to the budget number-wise at all. All I'm asking is, should we be funding labs for testing of Bambi, or should we be funding labs for testing of Randy or Sandy or Andy? I'm asking in this amendment that instead of us using this money for lab testing for deer. Let's use this money so that we can have lab testing and reduce the threshold a little bit for our citizens. They're scared. Members, your constituency is scared right now. Mine is too. We need to be doing everything that we can do to make sure that we give them the ease and the comfort that they need to get through this pandemic. And this will also help us stop the spread of the coronavirus in Tennessee. And with that, Mr. Speaker and Madam Sponsor, I move passage.
Representative Parkinson moves adoption of amendment number 9, properly second. Any discussion on the amendment? Leader Lambert, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I know that several of us have stood today in opposition of different amendments to this budget. I, like others, and my friend from Shelby County, will thank the chairman of our finance committee and the entire team from the governor's office and others and the governor for making very tough decisions. I, too, will not get up here and give a rousing, passionate speech about chronic wasting disease, but I will tell you the facts. The fact that CWD has hit our state, for those of us that are hunters, for those of us that harvest deer for our families, because I have a freezer full of it right now, and by the way, with the disaster that is striking Tennessee right now, I don't have to worry about if the grocery store is open. I'm blessed because I harvested a deer this year, and we've got a freezer full of meat. So for my family, it comes as a comfort that I have venison in the freezer, that I have the ability to be able to feed my children during this particular pandemic. Now, I know everyone doesn't have the ability for that, and to my friend in Shelby County, I understand that you probably do not currently live within a neighborhood where hunting is a part of your lifestyle, but sir, it is a part of mine. It is a part of my communities. It is devastating to know that when you harvest a deer, you don't know whether or not it has been infected with chronic wasting disease. And if none of that mattered to you, if it didn't matter to you at all, that we're still this money in something that matters to my community, to be able to test these deer after they've been harvested, by the way, to try to stop this. It has a $98 million negative impact on our state. That's from a study that was done just a short time ago, a $98 million impact when CWD was detected here in the great state of Tennessee. This money can go to test those deer carcasses to try to stop the spread of CWD, to try to get those hunters back into our state, because when everything else grinds to a halt, those of us that hunt, those of us that provide food for our families, and yes, we could go to the grocery store, but you know what? Again, I like the solace of knowing that there is a grocery store right in my backyard on our farm. That's why we've got a garden every year. That's why I hunt every year. And that's the reason I raise my children to try to be as self-sufficient as possible in this world, because sometimes it's actually a necessity. So with all due respect, sir, there are federal dollars that are going to test for coronavirus. There's $150 million that we're putting in this budget. There's $19 million for rural healthcare safety nets. There are millions upon millions upon millions. And to pick on those of us that hunt and say we don't care about chronic wasting disease, and I hope that's not the message you're sending today, this still matters. And in this budget, this $39.8 billion budget, surely we can still handle this emerging problem in our state. Now, again, that's probably not something everybody in this chamber thinks about every day, but those of us that hunt, it really does matter. And it's not a massive portion of this budget. I would respectfully, sir, move to table this amendment.
Proper motion, properly second. The parliamentary situation is that Representative Parkinson has moved amendment number 9. Representative Lambert has moved that motion to the table. That cuts off all debate except that of the sponsor. Representative Parkinson, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and to my colleague who I love and honestly miss being ruled out of order by in criminal committee. I appreciate everything that you said. I truly do. But I want to make sure that we all understand this too, members. Number one, I am not picking on anyone. I am a respecter of all cultures. We have many cultures in the state of Tennessee. The hunting culture is one, and I respect that. But we have to ask ourselves this, members. Are we talking about an issue of culture? No, we're not. But what we are talking about is an issue of values. Tennessee values. Tennesseans take care of Tennesseans first. We're talking about taking care of our citizens. We're also talking about an issue of priorities. Let me say that again. Members, we are talking about an issue of priorities. Who has the priority? Is it the deer, or is it that human Tennessee citizen? What is our priority? What is our value? Who or what do we value most? The life of a human or that of a deer? And let me ask you this let me close with this. My wonderful colleague, he spoke to testing of deer carcasses. So I'm going to ask the members, do we want to be testing deer carcasses, or do we want to be testing human carcasses? Which one do we want? With that, Mr. Speaker, I renew my motion.
The parliamentary situation is that Representative Parkinson has moved amendment number 9, and Leader Lambert has moved that motion to the table. We're voting on the tabling motion. All those in favor vote aye when the bell rings. Those opposed vote no. Has every member voted? Does any member wish to change their vote? Take the vote, Mr. Clerk.
Ayes 69, 20 nays.
The ayes have it. Amendment number 9 is tabled. Next amendment.